This is Project Management Paradise.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Project Management Paradise podcast, your passport to project success. I'm your host, Aaron Murphy, and today I'm delighted to be joined on the podcast by Lauri Accardi. For anyone who does not know Lauri, she is the founder and chief vision officer at CataPoint Consulting. She is a seasoned expert in program and portfolio management, agile methodologies, and business transformation. With over 25 years in technology, she helps organizations streamline operations, optimize processes, and implement agile frameworks for measurable impact. Lauri, thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I made sure to do a good bit of research before we did this episode, so I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you.
And Laurie, to start off the podcast, maybe you can tell us about yourself and your background, and how did you end up as an expert in program management?
There's not a linear story that I can tell about that. But yes, I in program management by chance, really. I am just really organized and really great at pulling things together and getting everything achieved and very driven personally. And I had started from a career perspective more based in my background of photography. So I was working at the Free People division of Urban Outfitters, and I was starting their production because they hadn't done anything formal from a production standpoint. So I started as a production assistant for their photo shoots, and that transitioned to where I am today. So like I said, it's not not very linear, but it really is just about I want to help people work smarter, not harder, in every single way that I can imagine to help them achieve that. So whether it's in my personal life with my 4 kids and my husband and my 2 cats and my dog now, or if it's in, I'm also a master's student. So I just received my master's of business administration, and now I'm studying my master's of management in strategic management and executive leadership. So or I'm also on board of directors. I'm the president and secretary of a local Montessori school. I'm on the student government at Penn State. In all of those ways, I am essentially doing program management as well, because it's really, I want everything to work as efficiently as possible. I want to find ways to make everything run as smoothly and for everyone to have all of the information they can. So it's really a part of my nature, and it became my profession because it's just who I am.
You seem to be a very, very busy person. How do you manage to balance all of it?
A lot of calendars. I have different calendars for different things, but they all sync together because my husband's like, I don't see this on this calendar. And I'm like, well, I have it syncing so that you can see everything coming from this other one. So it's a lot to manage. But again, it's all program management. It's having all of these different pieces that need to speak to one another so that you have a clear understanding of what's happening start to finish, end to end. And see, my cat agrees. This is Bacha.
Amazing, amazing. And what function does a good PMO serve?
A good PMO is able to really understand strategically the entirety of what is taking place inside of an organization or an enterprise. A good PMO has the ability to, at a moment's notice, understand the impact if there are delays for one project that's going to trickle down to another project that's going to impact the program, that's going to impact the portfolio. PMOs really, I feel like there's an underestimation of how much a PMO should have an amazing way to give stakeholders the reporting that they need, and at a moment's notice. It shouldn't have to include all of these different aggregations of all of these different pieces of information that they're trying to put decks together to show their stakeholders, look, this is what we're doing. it should all be available. Again, working smarter, not harder, so that you can all have the information that you need. It's a web of a network of all of these different components that really need to be pulled together all the time and seamlessly integrated with one another. So that's what I'd say a good PMO should be doing effectively.
Amazing. So all this information should be accessible within maybe just say like 2 clicks or less type. So there's no complications.
Yes, yes. So that if you get an executive stakeholder that's trying to understand, should we be investing in this one project, you should have that answer for them immediately. You shouldn't have to say, well, yes, let me get the data for you. It might take me a day and then I'll be able to present it. You should really have those insights available to you at any given moment. And that I feel like that's where I have personally seen so many challenges with I know the the most frequent use case that I have seen from consulting and also being in corporate America, I have seen so many companies that have silos. So you have all of these different silos, they're all working independently, they're all saying, okay, this is what we're doing. Well, how does what you're doing tie to what's happening over here? Well, it does, but I don't see it. How can I see it? How can I understand how all of these pieces aggregate together and make a whole, and how they are making the products that are adding business and customer value? So when I go in and I start to consult with PMOs, the first thing that I am trying to do is identify how can we maximize that business and customer value, and how can we bring that visibility to the stakeholders, and also to be able to track it. All of the program leaders should understand where every project is at any given point in time. So how can we get all of that information together to to understand how all of the pieces fit? So breaking down the silos is one of my personal my goal with all of my clients. It's just how can we get that cross-functional relationship happening so that everybody understands how their role impacts another team and how everything fits together. It's like a big puzzle. You've got all of these different pieces. You want to see what it looks like as a whole. You don't want to just see all the pieces. So let's find a way to aggregate it and get that visibility.
So you could go in where there's many different silos. They're all using different softwares to manage all this. So you're looking to consolidate all these systems and have nearly one centralized one so that anyone can pull in and see the overall impact it has across all departments.
Yeah. And think about the success of the PMO that is able to clearly be able to present that in a meaningful way. So that if for instance, when I was working at one company, it was very focused on user experience design. So that was the PMO that I was leading. But experience design requires product management and also an engineering team. So just seeing what user experience was doing was one part of the puzzle. I wanted to get everything aggregated together. So that was really my goal, is how can we work better together? It's part of the reason that I have achieved so many certifications, because I wanted to not only know my role, but I wanted to know how my role is going to interact with the other roles. What is it like for for in DevOps, for instance? What does that function look like, so I can understand it better? So when I am speaking to the engineering team, I understand it better so that we can really be able to get that full end-to-end picture. How can we work better together as peers, as a cross-functional team, to be able to get our work in line with one another so that we can be able to bubble everything up from a financial perspective, also just from timing. What about resources? Are there resources that we can use across different teams? You might not necessarily think it by just thinking about job titles, but there might be a resource that could be on one team that could be valuable on another project. How can we leverage that? If I can't see or the other teams can't see what my program looks like, they have no idea who my resources are. They have no idea what the availability is. There's no understanding. It is just me in my silo, them in their silo. And that is not healthy. How can business grow and thrive if we can't even?
And what pain points does a good PPM solution resolve, and how so?
A good PPM solution should be one in which you don't need to learn a you don't need to take courses in order to understand the depth of it. It should be something that you should know what you want to report and where you're going to go in order to pull in that information. It should have all the information already inherently available in the system. You shouldn't have to rely on bringing it in from other areas. I know a lot of people pull in from if they keep stuff in Excel sheets, for instance. I know there's so many different. There's a PMO that I have worked with that was using Smartsheet. They were using Excel. They were using even PowerPoint slides for their project management. And I was just like, oh my goodness, how can we get a view of what the PMO is doing? And none of them were tracking finances. So there was another exercise that had to take place from a financial perspective in order to rationalize and justify what was taking place on those projects. And so a good PPM brings everything together so that you can get all of that visibility. If you are in finance, you can see everything from a financial perspective. If you are in program, you can see everything. If you're an executive stakeholder, you can see what you need. And I love when I find a system that will give that transparency. Oftentimes, what I find when I am talking to clients and they are talking about hesitations for breaking down the silos and not wanting to have that visibility, oftentimes it is because they don't want that transparency. Because with that transparency is a lot of honesty. And there might be some things that they're like, oh, well, we're not really using 100% of all of our people's time. We don't want that to be brought to the surface. Why? Let's bring it to the surface. Maybe there's a way that we can get them to work on something that would make their job seem more exciting. Maybe there's a new project that we could have them work on if we know they're available. Why? And there might be some people that are working 200%. And this is what I found on one of my programs. When I brought everything into a PPM system, I recognized there are certain people that are way overutilized and other people that are way underutilized. I want to see that so I can get that level set. Everybody is working hard. Nobody should be working harder than someone else, especially if they're in the same role and they're getting the same salary. It should be more equitable. So I feel like companies that want a transparent solution to be able to understand all the nuances are ones that really want their team to get the support that they need, and they aren't scared about what they might find. They see it as exciting to see the opportunities it might bring. Um, Another thing that I a good PPM solution will really be able to satisfy all levels of the organization so that you can get down to the nuance of one project, or you can grow and see from the portfolio level. And you can also do things like quarterly planning where you can do scenarios. So just by saying, oh, we're going to kick this off in 2 weeks. Well, what happens if that can't take place? What is the cost of delay? A good PPM solution should be able to show us from a resource perspective, but also a financial perspective. And a good PPM system allows the program managers to focus more on the strategy behind the planning rather than entering data and understanding information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You're seeing like the ripple effects of what could possibly happen down the line.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you're getting that power of predictability of what's about to occur, how you can navigate away from it. And in the long run, you're going to be saving time and money.
Exactly. And the program manager really has a more strategic role in all of that. Whereas if they have a PPM system which does not support all of that, the majority of their time is spent just trying to follow up, track things, even at the project level. Your project managers should be spending their time really driving the work forward, not doing the data entry to say this person worked this many hours on this project. And how I don't know how much that costs. I don't know what that ties to, but I know that they did it, so I'm going to enter it. They should really have that good understanding, and it helps everyone have that clarity of what's taking place throughout the program.
It goes back to that transparency again.
Yeah, 100%.
And what changes have you noticed in the PPM space in the last 20 years since you've been in the industry?
I would say that the majority of the changes have been just the growth of the PMOs. Really, it's with the growth of business in general. I've seen a much different place for program management and PMOs within companies than I had when I started. It was very small, very few people, and then it continued to grow to where really the project managers, program managers, portfolio managers are seen as more of the subject matter experts. And we are getting more of the support from an organizational perspective, which is tremendous. And I want to help to grow the 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 benefit of the PMO. I want to grow the benefit of the people that are in the functions that make all of those projects, programs, portfolios successful. The way that they can be invested in seeing all of the success and in feeling like they have that investment in the ultimate customer and business value is by having a PPM system that brings everything together, because then they see, oh my goodness, my one project, yeah, I'm managing this one project, but look at what this is leading to. This one project is leading to all of these things in the portfolio being successful. You feel a greater sense of what you are accomplishing and your just the purpose of your role in project management by having that great PPM system. So without that before, it was all on different spreadsheets. It it reduced it to just, I'm tracking this project. I am a project manager working on this set of these projects. And when they're done, I will move on to another project. But now it's like, oh my goodness, with this PPM system, I see how I am helping our business grow. I'm helping research and development. I'm helping new products get to customers. That's incredible.
You're getting a larger perspective on the whole central universe of that project.
Exactly, exactly. It makes everything have a deeper meaning. And for for a project manager, programmer, portfolio manager, it has a different feeling in your work. You understand the greater meaning behind all of the projects that you're doing. So every day when you show up to work, it has a different meaning for you. I love not only being able to help people work smarter, not harder, but I also love being able to see the impact that I'm making on the business. I'm making for customers. I see the delight that comes as a result of the programs that I have helped roll out. That is beautiful.
Amazing. And what would be the main considerations for anyone that's evaluating a PPM solution?
I'd say it's really understanding what your goals are, not only for now, but for the future. I A lot of what I have seen and what I've been brought in from a consulting perspective is companies that go with the first solution that they tried because they really liked it for right now. They weren't thinking about in 5 years, what is my PMO going to look like? Am I going to have a bigger PMO? Are there going to be more projects, more programs, more like how extensive is our portfolio going to get? I feel like oftentimes in businesses, they're also making decisions where it is about what our organization is looking for. Let's get this solution. But they're not talking to their partnering organizations and they're not saying, well, as an enterprise, what makes the most sense? What can help us? Because if we're using a solution here, we have these other PMOs in the company. What are they using? What might they need? So having those conversations before making a decision is really important because you want to ensure that your PPM has that ability for growth, for expandability, and for transparency across all of these different teams to be the most successful.
And why is change management so difficult? I know it's such a broad question.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, it's because change is hard. People are different. There is no one right or wrong answer. Every single person is going to be unique. Organizations have different culture. You have distributed teams that are working virtually with time zone differences, things like that. So, taking so many of those things into consideration, change is just hard. And that's where change management becomes so critical because having someone that understands all of those nuances and that can really think through not just, well, you need to do this because you need to do this. How can you get that buy-in? How can you get those stakeholders that can really be invested and that can become your sponsors? How can you find your change champions that can help you drive it? So it's a more thoughtful process that takes so much of an understanding of people, which is where I feel oftentimes change management, if you don't have change management that thinks about the people and the nuance of that, it will not be successful. Change, it is reliant on all of the people. It's not just a technology. It's not just, a, a snap of the fingers and all of the sudden everything is changed and it's great. You have to think of all of the people. So having that good understanding, empathy, and having a good understanding just from an emotional intelligence perspective is such a critical part of change management. So I feel like change management can be very difficult, but it can also be really rewarding because being able to see the change when someone is coming from an opposition perspective and then you're able to have the conversations and get them to all of a sudden become one of your sponsors or champions, that is just so beautiful. So it can be very, very difficult, but it can also be the most fulfilling because successful change management is just beautiful to see in action.
And Laurie, we have this reoccurring question that we ask all of our guests, and I'm looking forward to hearing your answer because of how your career, as you said, was nonlinear to this point. But what's been the most important piece of advice you've received, and how has it helped you in your career?
Most important piece of advice I've received, I would say it was really just to be honest with myself and to be honest with others and to allow myself to be vulnerable because I feel like so many people are very focused on, oh, I need to protect the image of I know everything about everything. I know a lot about a lot of different things, but I will never say I know every single thing there is to know. I am always learning, always growing. That's why I'm getting my second master's right now. I recognize where I don't know things and I'm willing to do the work to learn it. That's the most important thing. So I'm always saying true and honest to myself, and I always have the best intentions for everyone and being able to communicate that to others and have them understand that about me. Anyone that knows me will say the same thing. They will say, I can talk to her about anything. Even my 16 and 18 and 14-year-old sons, my 6-year-old daughter, of course, yes, she would say that. But even my teenage boys, they know that they can come to me with anything because there's nothing that is off the table. I I just want to help people in whatever that looks like. So, yeah, that was the most important piece of advice.
I like it. And Laurie, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Some amazing pieces of information that our listeners can take from this. And the final question I do have for you today is if anyone is looking to get in contact with yourself, maybe continue learning more about your methodologies and to work with you on projects, which is the best places to reach you?
LinkedIn is great. My LinkedIn profile. So it's linkedin.com/in/Lauri Accardi. CataPoint Consulting is my company. So catapointconsulting.com, which is CATAPOINT consulting.com. And my email address is Lauri at catapointconsulting.com. So all of those methods, they all work. I love it when people reach out. I love it when people ask questions. And I love my network growing because that just adds more people that I can connect with that I can help whenever they need it.
Incredible. I'll make sure to include all those links in our show notes. And if you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast and you're listening on any of the audio platforms, we would greatly appreciate if you could leave us a 5-star review. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And once again, Laurie, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure, Aaron.
Thanks for listening to the Project Management Paradise podcast at projectmanagementparadise.com. Links mentioned during the episode, including speaker profile details and other resources, are available in the podcast description. We'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave a review, or you can email your comments or guest suggestions to hello@projectmanagementparadise.com. Finally, if you have not already done so, don't forget to subscribe.